All right, welcome back, guys, to episode 5 of Project Gratis. Two friends going from zero to a $50 million app sale. I am Jack. This is Sam, my co founder. And today we have a massive news. Our app is live, it works. We'll get into the details about some of the next steps that we have to do to make everything fully work. You can, if you use the URL, it shows up. You can click on the app, it shows the pics. We're still working through some kinks, and we don't really have a login screen right now that Sam's literally adding in after this that we can get into more details. But that's big news. I know we didn't have a video last week, but there was a lot of stuff. And in this video, what we're going to talk about is how we went from creating the model, but also first half the business aspect of naming the app, why we named it a certain way, what the process of actually getting the URL was, which it was much more difficult than people probably think. And then how we got the app to go live, how all those connections work, how then once it went live, we then had to almost redo the entire back end because then we had to rewire a ton of different things with the full scale connection. So this video is going to be longer. So, and that's what I keep forgetting to do. Make sure to hit like, subscribe, and comment. Like and subscribe. I always forget to do this in these videos. Please make sure to like and subscribe. It helps us out a ton. Again, we're trying to the big aspect of growing social media is to build out distribution. You can build the best app in the world. If you don't have distribution, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't, you can't get it to anyone. So by building this social media, and that's another thing we can talk about is kind of building a social media strategy behind this and seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, and kind of going from there. So I can also talk about that later. But yes, make sure to like, subscribe, comment in the comments. Tell us what name you think we should have done. If you like it, literally any comment you have or anything you want us to talk about in future videos, whether it's how we deal with finances, how we deal with like timing of different things, how we decide to push different products. Do we use feature branches? Do we do it on the fly in main? Different things like that. So please make sure to comment that because again, we're going to get this out, get distribution, and then grow this. And then you get to be a part. Being able to be a subscriber is a free way to then be a part of this massive journey we're on to sell an app for $50 million.
Amen.
Yes. Thank you, Sam.
Amen.
So first part, again, unfortunately, we didn't have a video last week, but the big thing was we were trying to name the app. So if you've watched the videos before, I have a personal sports betting page. It's called Bonfire Locks. I've had it for almost a little about 2 years. And so originally I already own that URL. So we were like, let's just use that. It's actually the business email that I use. But one of the things we want to stay away from, and I personally wanted to stay away from, was using true sports betting terminology because it can get flagged a lot. I've dealt a lot with this with Instagram. I've dealt with it literally on YouTube. I've dealt with it also with TikTok. TikTok hates words. Like people talk about how TikTok is changing the vocabulary. You can't use certain words on TikTok. And one of them is anything that has to do with sports betting. And so any words that, are used to say that it's like a guarantee, which, in sports betting, a lock, that's kind of like the term. I wanted to stay away from that. And, when you start kind of trying to steer clear of words, now we do know like there are a ton of sports betting apps out there that do use, .bet, or they use bets or stats or analytics or logs or stuff like that in their terms. But I really want to stay away from this aspect because I was very nervous about any legality issues, especially too, if we want to start running ads on Instagram, or Facebook or stuff like that, wanted to go as compliance free as possible. So that was part one of getting a name in the process. Part two is the process of building an AI app it is AI. So we want to use that URL for two reasons. One, it solidifies us as having the .ai confirms that it really is an AI application, but also gives us credibility that this isn't a normal betting site. This isn't just random people sending out picks. Like we're building an algorithm. That is what we're doing. What we've come to learn, and that's like, the biggest process of you guys watching these videos is we're learning on the fly. .ai domains are extremely expensive.
Yeah.
As I can see, Sam was laughing. And one thing that we found out too, that people domain invest. People will buy a ton of domains. And then I keep getting emails about some of these different domains that we were trying to get that we had to change, because the first name that we were going to do was just Bonfire AI. Because again, my sports page is already Bonfire. We're like, okay, let's just do Bonfire AI, make it easy. That was already taken. I think it was Sam, was like $6,000 to buy.
Six and like a quarter.
Yeah, it was insane. I was like, well, no, we're bootstrapping this thing like on the ground, so I'm not dropping, massive figures on a domain. So then we started trying to test out different variations. And again, when buying a domain, you go on like GoDaddy or okay. So you can see here we're on GoDaddy. Again, if you're trying to buy a URL, this is you can go on GoDaddy. I think there's other sites that you can use. But pretty much the point of buying a URL is one, obviously for the app, you need a place to put it, like where it's a website. It's literally a live website. So that's why you want it. The other thing too, why I personally had bought one previously for my sports betting company was because to, look more legit. Having a Jack at, company website looks much more legit than Jack12345 at gmail.com. And something that I've run into a lot is I have a very common name. Sam doesn't have as much of a common name as I do, but trying to make a email or anything with a name of Jack Riley is near impossible. So by having the domain URL, it makes it much easier. But again, you can see here, we tried so many different names. You can look here. This one was like $99.
I think if you look at your history, you can actually see all the different.
Let's look at all the different. Oh, it doesn't show it. But yeah, let's look up what the Bonfire AI costs. Yeah, it was $500,000.
It was $500,000.
So I was actually low. It was. Was it bonfireai.com? Was that the other one? Yeah, this one was $100,000. What if we did bonfirelabs.ai? Yeah, so that one was $100. But again, they have these, and you can, when you're on GoDaddy, it can give you great alternatives, but it's a hassle. And so then what we ended up doing was going through ChatGPT. Both of us were just running through a ton of different names, being like, okay, we need, we want sports involved, we want kind of AI involved, use different names. It's actually the same way how I came up with the name of Project Gratis was I literally just went to ChatGPT. It's like, hey, this is what we're doing. Do a bunch of different names, different configurations. Went through thousands of different variations. And the reason is because every time we'd get an idea, like we're like, okay, heat check. We're like, okay, that'd be a cool one. Heatcheck.ai. Went in. Again, $100. There were some other ones. I know my roommate was trying to help us to come up with different ideas. And it was really difficult to come up with a name. But Sam, do you want to do the drum roll of we actually did get the name and we bought the domain. We have it. The site is called slantlabs.ai. And you can see the site is live. This is the website that we created. Mainly Sam. I helped, but mainly Sam building this. And, we're super proud. And Sam can kind of go through, but that was kind of the process of building out the URL. And, Sam could talk about when he added the URL after we bought the domain, owned it, started building out the business side. Sam went through and then pushed the app to the URL. And then we had to rework a bunch of things in the background, but Sam can kind of get into more about how all of that worked.
First thing I want to say is this has been I've built AIs for military companies. I've coded for Amazon, but this is the first time that I've been on the ground floor building something. I'm a self-taught engineer, and my first job after teaching myself how to code and doing some contracts for companies that already had established sites was Amazon. So I've always gone kind of established code base, kind of established, it just has some rules and regulations. The documentation is there. You're good. This is the first time that I've actually built something with another partner it's ours. It's ours. You have the vision, and I've been the one who's been able to build it. And first and foremost, anyone watching this, Jack has a very specific vision that he has been talking about since I met him years ago, about how different sites almost got it right, but they should have done this. Effed up here because they did this. And this is the accumulation of Jack's years in the industry now shown in an actual website.
And I have friends that work at different companies that I've like been like, you need to fix this, you need to fix that, you need to fix this, and like finally, I'm like, we need to just build this ourselves. It's driving me nuts.
So we built it, and like here's the thing that I want to say: like a few things that if anyone who's learning development is understanding is shipping to production is one of the most dangerous things you can do because you're no longer like doing anything locally. And locally usually means like a local host 3,000, 8,000, whatever you choose to use. So when you ship to production, everything shifts, everything changes. And that's one of the things that I had to learn was when I shipped to production, pretty much everything broke immediately. And I've spent the last, so I published the website on the 11th, and for the past 5 days, I've spent maybe 10 to 12 hours a day just fixing shit. So I'm going to go through a few things. I'm going to show you our Railway, which is basically the workhorse. And Jack mentioned GoDaddy. So those are two different things. People think GoDaddy, that's the website. Kind of. GoDaddy is your real estate agent. He's going to show you the different houses you can afford. You're going to buy that. But to decorate it, furnish it, fix it up, do everything, that's on a whole different site, basically. GoDaddy is just your domain hoster. That's where everything is hosted, and the path goes from typing it into your phone. GoDaddy redirects you to the site, and then everything else that you've done is now shown there. So right here, what we have here is the actual slantlabs.ai. So www.slantlabs.ai. It will bring you here. And this right now is showing our performance stats. So right now we have a 27, 27, 1. We have more, but right now this is actually like the graded ones based off the algorithms of the AIs and the MLs. That's what that means right now, what we're showing you. So
And this is just from like the last like couple of days that we're
yeah.
doing this. Because again, we had said last time it was like hitting at a 70% rate. This is just what it's showing the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, because I basically had to reset it because the stats were being put to a SQLite, which is your local. You have it on your computer. It's in a VS Code. That's where you get the data from. Now that we have a new one, I have to redo that script and send it back up, grade it, and then bring it back. So good point. But right now you can see our top picks for today. We have Jalen Brunson on the Knicks for an under, and you want to go to DraftKings because DraftKings has the best odds. And if you want to do more detail, but I'll show you that in a second. First, I wanted to show you like we have the filter by Sportsbook. This one will like you can see which sports like we live in Florida. Florida doesn't really let sports betting happen. I think there's one you told me that allows sports betting.
It's Hard Rock.
Yeah.
That we should try to add Hard Rock as well. This is what you also we're learning on the fly. Hard Rock's really the only legal one for traditional sports book, but you can use player exchanges, peer-to-peer exchanges like Novig, ProfitX, Player Profit, stuff like that.
Yeah. So this is just like whoever your sports book is, we'll show you the odds for them and we'll show you how to beat them. So if you go back and then you go to settings, this is the fun. This is like cool. So we've talked about this in a previous video. This is all about units, like how many units you usually bet, like 500. All right, let's bring that up to like $1,000 a bet. And then you can save these settings. And then basically if you want to pick a bet in Slant Labs, it will track it, show you how much you won, if you won, and if you didn't. But everything, all the transactions are done on those sports booking sites. And say you're new to this, like I've shown before, I think we have a learning center, how this all works. This is like really interesting, like DSF Pick'em Payout Boost. This is just going over all the information you could possibly need. So if you are new to sports betting and you want to get into it, read this. I would say take some time. There's rebets, there's dabble. And then if you go to peer-to-peer versus sports betting, we'll explain that too. And then, of course, we have our legal considerations that Jack already talked about at the beginning. So if you go all the way back to the top, now let's just go into picks. This is the part that I fixed today. So one of the things we were having was that there were duplicates, and that was driving me crazy because I couldn't figure out why the duplicates were duplicating. The picks were duplicating. Long story short, there's a simple dot feature that you can add to parse deduplicate. So it says like if the API or the database returns multiple ones, delete any of them that are similar and only show one. And I took me about an hour, but I found it. But let's go into player props real quick. So player prop for tonight is the NBA Cup between the Spurs and the Knicks.
Yep, you're learning.
I'm learning. So let's talk about Jalen Brunson on the Knicks. So he has a 55. This is a conservative bet. And remember, with betting, getting to a high percentage is what our planning, our goal is. But right now, with the AIs being basically newborns, you have to be gracious with what they give you. So if you look here, you have Jalen Bronson, what team he's on, the market that you're looking for, which is PRAs, which is picks, rebounds, and assists.
Points, rebounds, assists.
Shit. And then you're going to look on DraftKings for the best odds because the odds are minus 118. And then if you want to understand why, you can just look at the AI analysis. And basically, this wasn't as hard as I thought, but this is good for a market that we're aiming towards as well, which is people like Jack. So people like Jack, you have to spend a lot of time looking at different algorithms, looking at different books, trying to find which ones are going to make the best money for the odds for the people who follow you. And also, that's a lot of research. So we do it by ourselves for those people. So if you look here, Jalen Brunson has had a 36.6 PRA over the last 5 games. The one thing that I need to figure out is the defensive rebound. Is that RG?
Defensive versus offensive rebounds.
Yeah. So that's just one thing. There's just like a mismatch between the APIs we're calling, and that's just something I have to map. But this is really what you want to do. So you can stake your amount. So let's say $5 for someone like me. And then you record the bet. And then the bet goes into your bets tab, and it will mark as pending. And then when you look at settled, it will show it as settled, and it will show you what that calculation would be. Now, if you go to games, we have NBA, but we also now show NCAA
basketball.
Yeah. We have NFL. We have.
Wait, does that show? Does that say NFL and it's showing the NHL?
Yeah, that's the Rangers. That's a hockey team. I'll fix that.
I can look into that because that's strange. I don't know why that's happening.
Yeah, but NBA is what we're working on right now. So tonight, big game, NBA Cup, San Antonio Spurs versus New York Knicks, and then once we add a few more features, you'll be able to click into this game specifically and just see the picks for that game, which player props, which games, over-unders, which books to go to, things like that. And then if you want to do a little bit more like understanding of like what our app can do, so this is actually what we have right now. So our win rate has been increasing for the past few weeks that the models have been recording on the URL instead of the local host. So that's something I have to move over, is the actual data from the local to the host, which is the URL you're seeing. You can see that money line is something that we're hitting at a 58.3% accuracy. Spread is a little bit different because I'm still learning about that. I've been watching YouTube videos about spreads, and it's interesting because it actually has to do with more factors than I fully understand.
Yeah, and spreads, in my opinion, I think spreads and totals, I think will be one of the biggest factors. Because again, what Sam was talking about, like, I've thought about this stuff for years. I got a master's in data science. I've studied sports betting and stuff like that. A common misconception is, say it's Patriots playing the Cowboys and the spread is -3. The odds makers don't think the Patriots are going to win the game by 3. Their goal is just to have an even amount of money placed on both sides. And at -3, they think having a spread at 3 has the highest probability of psychologically people betting money on the same side. So if we are able to find the loopholes and find the spreads that are misaligned, same thing with totals, same thing with spreads, or same thing with PRAs or player props, then we'll be very profitable. And again, we're able to do that in the training data, hitting at 60, 70%. This new data that we're working with right now, we're just testing out, seeing how well it's doing live, and it'll just get better and better as it trains and learns from itself.
Exactly. So one of the things that we should talk about is actually the models. So like the models for games are statistical models. They're trained on statistical probability. But player props are different. They're actually based on something called a random tree forest. I think I'm saying that right.
Mhm.
And basically, that is a more complex algorithm because, for the most part, team versus team, if I said like 2024, like Celtics are playing the Knicks, like the Celtics
Celtics.
are going to win. Yeah. So that's where like the more you get into the minute details, which I said in a previous video, it's less variables, but it's actually more probability. So less variables, more probability is this interesting game we're playing. It's kind of like a push and pull, like Jack said. But let's continue. So this performance is updated every day, so you can see how well the app is doing. And if you want, we also in the home stats page. I'll go back to this really quickly. So this ROI, this net units, and this profit for each user will actually update dependent on the user's inputs in the app. So no, so the only thing that will remain the same is the win rate for the AI, the record of the AI, but your ROI, your net units, your profits will be based off of your trust in our algorithm, essentially. So then the next thing we added was a discounts page. And this is just, these have prize picks, underdog, dabble, things like that. And
I can
then,
talk about how. So the way that works is it's twofold. It's one, again, Sam mentioned earlier about the B2B play in working with sports content creators. Again, we post daily different picks. We want to find the best, highest odds for our clients, but also then communicate why they are the best picks. Daily discounts is a feature that I have a lot of affiliate companies that I work with, and a lot of them are DFS apps. But overall, these apps, because the market's so competitive, they're constantly doing discounted plays. So, say for tonight, one of the apps, perfect example, tonight in the NBA Cup, Prize Picks could be doing a gimme pick on Jalen Brunson at least 1 point or over 1 point pick. Whereas then on underdog, they could be doing, hey, Wembenyana 1 point gimme pick. And then on better, they could be doing another thing. And as a content creator, trying to find these all and post them all and getting them all together is really difficult because there's so many different companies that we work with. So having at one spot to have them all is super helpful and beneficial to us. Just hey, okay, I can take this link, send it to my Instagram, take this link, send it to my Discord, and I have them all right in a row. But also too for the users in general, as a user, you want to be able to find, hey, where am I getting these free picks? Where am I getting these gimme picks? Okay, I know on Prize Picks I can add, or if I'm a Prize Picks user, I can add Jalen Brunson. If I have underdog, I can add the Josh Hart pick. If I have, better, I can do Wemby and Yana. Then also too, from our business standpoint, like I mentioned, there's a ton of affiliate options. So if we're able to show all of the discounted plays right in the app, people can then sign up using our links, and then we get a referral commission for people signing up using our links. So that's kind of why it's a 3-factor tab that is super beneficial to us and all of our users.
exactly. So one of the things that like Jack has been in the industry for such a long time that he understands like that business aspect. I, in general, don't. Um, I understand like how to build these things that could help in that situation. So that's where like the push and pull is. Like Jack every day has been like, hey, like this is something that definitely needs to be fixed. And I understand that like in Jack's head, like he has this vision that's going to work. And all I have to do is just, well, for lack of a better term, fuck around and find out with the code and make sure it works. And for the most part, it does. So this is back testing. This itself is back testing, but this is clean. So I had to build this twice, which was annoying because the more time that we wait, things like that. So right now, this back testing is a clean version because the first time I did it, I would call Jack. I'm like, we have a 75% win rate. He's like, that's not right. Like, you're right. There's data leakage probably. So I looked through the data and I was like, oh, okay. So these are leaking. So I had to find and go through everything. So right now we have helper functions, which I'll just like, for people who are interested in this is just like a query test and state and a stat type. But if you keep going, you can actually find like back testing loops, which is basically like the player's rebounds. And it does this for all player data we have. And then it keeps going into, this is just a long else if. Oh, I need to fix that. Sorry, I don't like when my code doesn't look right. But this is also right here, the results. So this is how everything is stacked and shown. And then there's a helper function at the end that makes sure like, hey, was this data that you tried to predict part of your training data? If so, you just lied, stop doing that and report it. And that's just something that you really want to make sure you do when you're doing with AIs, because AIs, they don't understand the difference between a truth and a lie. That's something that a colonel once told me. He's like, you understand what you're building doesn't understand the difference between a truth and a lie. And that's something that you have to be very careful of going forward. But let me stop sharing this screen and go back to the app. Yeah, that is that. And also, if anyone ever like wants to learn how to build AIs, there are great YouTube videos on on just how to build it without having to use like PyTorch or anything like that. Like you can just build this in pure Python. It's harder, but you have more control of it. PyTorch, things like that. You're going to have to learn a lot. With Python, you can just learn Python and be like, oh, I can build an AI. So last thing I want to show is the profile tab. And this is for each individual user. So Jack set up a login page that's going to have you confirm with your email. And this will also allow you to put in your personal information. So your name, your email, your last name, your date of birth, gives you a cool little counter. And then also we want to know what your favorite team is, because we want to curtail this experience for you. So if you have a favorite NBA, MLB team, you can just pick it and then you can save it. Or if you want to just keep it as is and default to everything, see everything, and just bet on whatever you want, keep it like that. But there also, like, you can have options like, hey, maybe just show me some player props, or show me some spreads, or team totals, money line, game total. You can do that. And then, of course, whatever you subscribe to for how many picks you get, because one of the things that we're going to do in the future is that if you don't want to pay for anything, you get 2 picks. 2 picks a day, that's what you get. If you want to pay, I'll give you all the picks you want all day. But that's something that we got to figure out the business behind it, just so, like, we have API quotas. Like, we're paying for a quota on the API. So every time that somebody refreshes the screen, there is a rate limit that I've built in, so nobody can just run a script and charge us however much that the company will charge us for, let's say.
I didn't even think about that. Thank God you put that in.
Yeah, no, rate limiter is a real thing. That's like, if it's not there, somebody can easily write a script, plug in our URL, and just keep hitting those APIs until we owe ungodly amount of money.
That's not good.
Yeah. So this is the app. It's up, it's working, it's there, it's beautiful. There's a few things that I have to do tonight before I can call it a night. One of those things is specifically just the login. But other than that, I mean, I am, like, I won't lie. I was telling Jack earlier, like, I was a little embarrassed because when I launched it, I was like, it launched, and then I took a walk with my wife, and I was like, let me see if anything's breaking, and everything broke because of the next thing I'm going to show you. This is a great website if you know how to use it. I'm not one of those people. These are called, what you're seeing right now is, so I told you, GoDaddy's our real estate agent. This is the house. This right here is Railway. Railway is a way to automate and produce production-ready apps that can be updated in an instant. This is more geared towards web with like iOS. You have to go through Apple and they have to approve it, and then you push it. You do this whole thing, which is just a headache. We're not doing that because they also take 30%, and who the hell are they? So right here, you have the Slant Labs front end. So this is where like the front end, so it sees everything in my code, then it establishes that as the front end and shows it. This is actually the back end. So the back end does the most of the work. It does all the work really. And then all of these cron jobs, and cron jobs are basically like how apps update themselves, get data by themselves, do things without any human intervention. So I thought I was only going to need one of these. Turns out I needed two, four, six, eight, nine of them. And they all have to run in a certain order, and they all have to run at a certain time, and they all have to be able to tell me if there's a problem because sometimes they'll just fail silently. So this is, if you're building an AI, go with Railway. It's great if you know how to use it. If you don't, learn. I don't know how else to say that. So that's my TED talk of the back end, the front end, and then we could eventually go through Supabase, but that's more your domain.
Yeah, we can go overall Supabase if you want to go based off of the analogies that we have been using. Supabase would be kind of like you could say like the pantry or whatever, because pretty much the way the app works now, as Sam mentioned, the URL was the real estate agent, right? So realtor, we bought the house. Railways is the house that everything is running on, and the app is what's placed there. What shows up in the app is from Supabase, and that's what something that we ran into issues was when we had first created the app. We had everything running on Fast API pretty much locally, as Sam was talking about. Everything's running locally. So we had some like custom code inside to run locally. We had some other things stored locally. But once it's pushed to the URL, that all breaks because we need a centralized storage. So we had to move pretty much everything into Supabase. That's why on the daily games, we were running into some issues where the games weren't showing up. So I went back, pulled that information in via Odds API, and then that stored. Then that began being displayed in the website itself. So trying to move everything so it runs automatically. And similar thing too with the picks, like the picks are running via Railways and then they're stored in Supabase. That way the URL in the app just points to Supabase and it can refresh faster. And we use different things like materialized views, different table schemas. So that way it's faster uploading. And it's something that we've built on my end as like a data engineer.
Yeah, which I'm like that. I would have been lost because for the most part, I have no idea. Like I just read. I just open up the table editor, and I like look. Is it there? Is it the right date? Yep. And then how to edit it? I just try to like chat GPT some SQL code, and then upload it, and then it'll tell me I was wrong, and then I'll try again. But basically, like the cool thing about what Jack did with Superbase is that like each table has a relationship to each other, and each individual aspect of that table, like say if you're like Jalen Hurt, that's a real player, right?
Yeah, he's an NFL player. He's a quarterback.
Okay. Shit. Yeah, sure. Let's go with that. He has a relationship to a team, but he also has a relationship to another table called his stats or player stats. So what Railway does is calls all the information. Information is put into a specific table. That table then pushes again to a team table. Then that pushes again to a player table. And then we have to encode pull that in a very specific order because if you pull one too early and the other one hasn't propagated, you'll have false data. You have to be very, very careful about that.
And what
So
Sam's pretty much saying out loud is what a relational schema is. And it's what denormalization is the inverse and the up and down of normalizing data tables. But it's pretty much in machine learning, you want to create what they're called as mother of all tables. And you put all of the data together. You put all the statistics, all the information together. So the AI models can run through one table, have all the information, find out what the most predictive metrics are, and then use those to create further predictions. The opposite is when you're actually storing data, you want it. No, I always do it backwards, whether it's normalized. I think it's normalizing the tables. but pretty much you want to break the tables out. As Sam was saying, you want a table that just has all of the team names, and then you want a table that just has all of the players, and then you want a table that has all of the player data. Then you want another table that has all of the games. And the reason for that is every time you hit a table, it has to run. And the more columns you have, the slower the query is. Now, some queries can take milliseconds, but when I was in banking, we were running millions and billions of lines of tables that can run over 30 minutes. They can take very long. And when you're building an app, people always talk about how fast can you build it. So from my standpoint was I need to build the back end of the data warehouse to be as fast as possible so that when Supabase pings it and when you as users click it, you get the information as fast as possible.
Exactly.
So the other thing too, like for example, on the widgets that Sam built to show the games, all the different tables, I just uploaded all their hexes, and then those are based off of the teams, and then that table is just the teams, and then that tab itself pulls the odds, and then it says, hey, for this team, go over to the teams table and then pull their hexes, and that's how they all kind of join together.
Exactly. And it's like you have to be. So one of the things that I've been doing recently is I've been making .md files. It's just a markdown file. Basically, it's just a plain text file that just shows what I have to do. And I refer to that every single day because I'll forget the order of operations in which you have to do it. Because that's something that I like before I was doing that, I was like, oh, I can build this. I've built AIs before. Everything broke. I was like, all right, let's be a little bit more systematic about this. So the good news is Jack's dream is live. It's here. It's real. Jack, I appreciate you bringing me on to this. This has been a lot of fun and a big learning experience for me. Something I definitely need to do for us is just clean up the code base. You've seen it.
Thanks for building it.
It's kind of crazy. There's a lot of things that just real quick for any coders out there who like wants to use Railway now because they see our app works on it. Don't be an idiot like me and not read the documentation. There's a command line interface where you can just mess around with everything in your command line terminal and not have to deal with Railway. That was something I found a few days ago, and it saved me hours of work. So that's all I have to say. The app is live. Like, subscribe, comment, tell me what I'm an idiot about. Give me some criticism. I need it to make this as best as possible. Jack, any final words?
Yeah, as Sam said, we appreciate you guys listening. If you actually made it all the way here, comment Railways. That's what we'll start doing to see who actually watched the whole video. But yeah, the app is live. You can use it, sign in. We'll probably make a Discord or something to get user feedback. But if you have any feedback, comment it. As again, this is the MVP. As I said, the goal of the AI is to hit at a 60% mark. We had it at 70. It dropped to 58. Right now, the last couple of weeks has been about 50%, just shooting even. So we're just trying to improve this, improve the user experience for you guys, get feedback. And the good thing about it just being two people is we can get information, get feedback, and deploy it right away. Like, for example, when I look at the games, I was like, oh, we need to add the widget. So I just went in, did it, update it. We're constantly going to be pushing new features, analyzing different things, creating new options. And in the future, we'll also have affiliates. So if you're interested in any of that, comment. We might, as I mentioned, we might create a Discord in this. We're trying to figure it out. But comment, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.